Hello, Internet.
Greetings and salutations. How you doing?
Greetings, those who frequent the YouTubes.
And welcome to Lies and Scandal. I am Scandal.
And I am Lies.
And we are doing a grindin' cast. Woo!
Okay.
This is round 2, actually, of our little series that we impromptu decided we would do. And it is...
It is, well, what we're going to be doing is previewing books. So we're just going to the library app that we have and checking out a book that sounds either problematic or like strangely tropey in some way. And we're just going for it. Yep. Anyway, so it's just going to be the preview where, you could look at the book before, basically try before you buy kind of thing, but it's try before you check out.
Try before you download for
we're going to be checking out Breathless. By Jessica Warman. All right. And in this time, Scandal will be reading.
Yay!
Which will be lovely. But one thing to know beforehand, this sounds like a romanticization of mental illness or perhaps like exploitation of mental illness.
It's true.
So warning for that if that's something that bothers you. We don't know anything about this book, but that is what it sounds like in the thing.
And after the end, so we're actually just going to go directly into reading the sample, but then afterwards we'll read the summary of what prompted us to actually do this.
Yep, that's the format of these things.
Right.
All right, so let's get right into it. Take it away, Scandal.
All right, part 1 of Breathless by Jessica Warman. Chapter 1. There's a man feeding the koi in our fish pond because my parents don't want to do it themselves. Ooh.
Does it actually say that?
Yes, it does.
Oh my god, that sounded ad-libbed. Sorry, go ahead. I'll just take this. We good.
I love the fact that you think that was me. I am that freaky. I love it.
You're so edgy. Because my parents don't want to do it themselves. Oh my god, this is amazing. I'm sorry, that's the first slide. Okay, let's go. We got this.
Even though the pond has been there for years, the fish don't have names. Why? You know how many people name their fish? Probably not actually as many as you think, you jerk. Anyway.
It's not necessarily a lot, and also if it's a breeding pond, your fish are changing. So
also if it's a fish pond, it's actually a lot harder to see all the fish in some way. Anyway, I'm done. Anyway,
let's keep going. Forget it. Put it down.
The man comes twice a week to feed the fish, once a week to prune the rose bushes and mow the lawn, and once a month to wash the outsides of all the windows. So basically, you guys have money.
Yeah, sounds like it. You have a...
My parents didn't take care of the fish pond, but we have a personal gardener who comes and cleans. Do you
come
know how much work it does?
Suspend your disbelief just for a moment. We know nothing about this.
I'm a slap. Anyway. This afternoon, from our place on the roof, my brother and I watched with detached interest as he tosses a handful of food pellets into the fish pond. He glances over his shoulder to look at us warily. My brother and I wave, and he quickly looks away. I don't know where my parents found him. I'm sure he has a name, but I don't know that either. Now, who's judging their parents and doesn't know who... Anyway,
you don't know who the help is. I'm sorry.
Life hasn't always been like this. When I was a little girl, my family lived in a 2-bedroom cottage.
Not an apartment, it's a cottage.
In an area of rural Pennsylvania called the Bearlands. Even though I was so young, I remember almost everything about that life. I realize now that we were poor.
And they could have been. Pennsylvania.
It's true.
And she calls it a cottage. It could have just been a small house.
I know, right? But back then, I never felt that way. My parents had paid their own way through college. It really says this. And after we were born, my mom's... Okay, you're
having such a hard time.
I really am.
Scandal's having such a hard time.
Because part of the problem is that money... during the time frame that I'm assuming this is supposed to be, went a lot further. So I cannot get into this author being like, we were poor. Your parents got to pay through college. Do you know how hard it is to do that now?
A lot of children don't actually know what those kinds of things mean, so our protag might not know anything about it. It's just, these are the details that are important about my family that I'm sharing right now.
Because it sucks. Anyway, I just...
Let me retrospective out the window right now as I judge the Fishman.
That's funny. Yeah, I know. I'm like, where is this even going? This is what you're thinking of when you watch a Fishman? The man who's your gardener, basically? We were poor at that point. Anyway.
We're not poor anymore.
Right?
All right, go.
Had paid their way through college, and after we were born, my mom stayed home with me and my brother, while my dad continued to work and go to medical school.
And then he made money
hate this even more
because you have a doctor dad. It's fine.
This is also vaguely... Okay, I'm okay.
You're okay.
I'm fine. And then also a thing that I know that this is stupid. Anyway, they paid for everything themselves, and we didn't have much of anything. We didn't have a TV or new clothes or lots of toys. We didn't even have a telephone. It was all very Swiss Family Robinson. Are you kidding me? Anyway, for the first few years of my life, I shared the same room as my brother. My mother painted dinosaur murals on our bedroom walls. Once I
That's
was
cute.
old enough to speak, he and I stayed up past bedtime every night to make up stories about them. They scared the hell out of me, but I had to keep my brother. I had my brother, excuse me, to keep me safe.
Every night you made up stories about the dinosaurs.
That scared you.
No, but every night this was the only thing you did in your room. That sounds incredibly limited.
It sounds very silly, too.
Anyway, we also didn't have books in our poor cottage or
We
any
also
other...
didn't do anything. It's fine. We didn't have our own separate interests or basically develop as separate people. We were obsessed with each other. It's
or
fine.
ever look at windows back then. We just looked at the wall.
We had no feelings.
We were so poor, we only looked at the wall.
Oh God, look! This is our whole world. We don't even have an outside. We're so poor. Anyway. For years we lived that way. The four of us tucked back in the woods, alone in the cottage together. That sounds like you guys are stupid. Like, I'm like, as a little kid, you'd run outside and be like, woods all the time. Parents also going, come back, because that was what I did with my brothers. My brother, who was a schizophrenic. Excuse me, I'm going to actually start to get mad about this. So I know about the summary,
So
and
this
I'm
book
already irritated.
is trying to tell my friend's story in an edgy way.
And I'm kind of irritated.
At any rate, many of these criticisms are highly opinionated.
It's true.
Colored by an individual experience, just so we're clear.
Scandal's got problems, personal problems with this. Anyway.
We're okay. We're okay. Let's go.
My dad went hunting, and we ate whatever he caught.
Okay, but kids not going outside or playing outside when you live in the woods is bizarre. That's how people used to raise their kids when you live on prairie homesteads or any place in nature.
They kick them outside.
You kicked them outside. Not
On
only do you let
purpose.
them go outside, but you make them go outside to get out of your hair. That's how they get raised.
I loved venison. I still do. My mom had a big garden in our yard where she grew zucchini and tomatoes and lettuce and didn't force us, apparently, to help her because that's stupid. Anyway.
And where she also grew only very popular modern vegetables.
I know. Anyway, she took us for walks every day. So we never went outside, but we always went outside. Anyway, we watched baby birds hatching from their eggs. We picked blueberries and raspberries and cultured wild yeast.
So apparently, the only time they went outside was with their mom. They just never went outside alone.
Right?
That's what this is the children never get to go alone.
Which...
Anyway, wild yeast is great. Sourdough bread is awesome. Go.
I love sourdough bread. My mom used to make that all the time.
I say we are telling Scandal's story.
We are, and it's pissing me off. We watched tadpoles grow into frogs, their eggs collected in a plastic bowl filled with water that sat on our kitchen windowsill. We sat very still as children, but never still enough, while our mom sketched our faces with quick precision. So our mom was an artist. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, she was an artist. She painted their bedroom wall as well.
All right, but that doesn't mean that she's any good at it.
Art being speculative. If she liked it, she was good.
That's fair.
If she liked what she did, she was good.
That is a good point. Art is honestly art in the eye of the beholder, so who cares?
If you do what you set out to do, you have done well.
Pretty much. We played hide and seek in the yard while she stood at her easel a few feet away, never letting us out of her sight for too long.
See, like I said, she just doesn't let them go at all. She's very protective. She's a helicopter mom.
No, she kind of is. Helicopter artist mom, which is actually an interesting
combination. Contrast. That makes her sound like an interesting character. What brought you to this paranoid place while you're also sort of a creative spirit? All right, let's go.
But our dad was almost never home. And one night, while my mom read us a story at bedtime, we heard a car pulling onto the gravel outside our house. "It's Daddy!" I said, rushing to get out of bed. Aww. I hadn't seen him in days. But my mother held out her arm in a panic. "It's not your daddy. Come with me. Now." The three of us hid on the floor of my closet and listened. My mother kept her hands over our mouths. My brother and I wrapped our arms around her. I remember the way her body shook with fear. There were two men. We never saw them, but we heard their boots and their voices. Later on, much later, I learned they broke into 4 other houses besides ours in the Barrowlands that night. Because we were in the closet, we were the only family they left unharmed.
Oof.
Less than a month later, we moved to Hillsburg. I was 4. My parents chose the town because it was safer than the city, safer than the country. Honestly, so many people say that the country is way safer than the city. This is a weird... The city is the best. I'm like, I've heard nothing anyway.
Let's go back to My Side of the Mountain, which is a classic Newbery Award-winning book that's super cool. All right, so the author, when trying to publish it, got a call from their agent going, "Oh my God, I cannot publish this. This is about a child running away from the city to the wilderness. We don't want to encourage people to run away to wilderness." He's like, "Would you rather have a story about someone running away from the wilderness to the city?" And they went, "Oh God, no," and they published it.
Yeah.
Because it's way safer out in the wilds in general than it is in a city filled with people and risks.
Because honestly, actually, more of the danger truly is people. Because we are cramped together and we are actually very unhappy in a lot of ways. So a lot of people take it out on each other due to trying to survive.
Yeah.
It's
I said
really unfortunate.
There's a lot of deep psychological study on the basically overpopulation syndrome versus, in reference to the crowding of cities.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's also
It's
the
not also
style
to
of
criminalize
city.
cities at all.
Mm-mm.
Cities can be great, fantastic, marvelous things that bring people together for a
But in
purpose.
general, your crime rate is way less out in the middle of nowhere.
It's true. All right.
Of course, there's hardly anyone out in the middle of nowhere, so less crime rate to be had.
That's right. Statistically speaking, of course there's lower crime rate. There's less people. Oh, right.
Statistically speaking, if you have less of something, it's a smaller number. You really?
You mean like if we have less guns, there's less gun violence? Wait, what?
That's amazing.
Oh, God. Anyway.
How weird. All right, go ahead. We can't do this. We're going to try, but we can't do this. All
My
right.
parents chose the town because it was safer than the city, safer than the country, and had lots of kids. Well, that one's true.
How do you choose a town for the quantity of children?
You walk around. Do you have children?
Do you have children? How many children do I see on the street on average? Drive through every town that you can see and look for the quantity of streets on the children.
This also kills me. Our house was the biggest in the town.
The whole town? Holy crap.
But like
You're bigger than the mayor's house.
Also, I'm like, that's amazing. But like most of the other houses on our street, it was also a mess. Peeling paint, cracked sidewalks, ugly wallpaper, and leaky ceilings. So basically, it sounds like you should have never been able to sell this house, but that's okay.
But they would buy it, so it's all right, because they were desperate to get out of the country.
Right. Our parents called the house a money pit. My brother and I didn't care. Our street was full of kids our ages. We had a nice big yard. You had a lot of money. My brother was so excited to go to a new, larger school, and I was thrilled.
Completely rundown house in a rundown neighborhood doesn't mean a lot of money. We don't know what state they're in.
Potentially, it's fair.
We don't know
All
what
right,
state they're in.
Fine,
All right,
fine.
go.
I was thrilled by the possibility that maybe someday we could put a swimming pool in the backyard. Even then, at 4 years old. Wow, you're still 4. I could already swim like a snail. What? But
snail?
Your mother would never let you. Anyway, I don't even know.
How do you know how to swim if you lived out in the woods with no water?
I know. That's why I'm like, what?
Anyway,
I can already swim like a sail. Excuse me, not snail, because I got distracted going, swim like a sail? What the? Slicing the wind on the Narragansett Bay. My mom called me her water baby.
Okay.
When I was 5, a gallery in San Francisco started to sell her paintings, and after a while, she was making real money. Just after I turned 6, my dad finished his MD and opened up a psychiatry practice.
Oh, wow.
Pretty soon, he had 4 offices in 3 counties, and we weren't poor anymore. How did he have 4? So he had 4 other people that worked for him?
Yep.
I didn't know you could do that with a psychiatric.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Okay.
You can have a practice that overarches other practices. It's okay.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, I get that part, but I'm also like, usually they work in the same. Anyway,
nope,
I don't
they
know.
don't
They usually
to.
work in the same building, as far as I was always aware. Anyway.
Have you heard of Smile Doctors? Holy cow.
No.
It's a large practice that's taking over a lot of dentists that is not a franchise, but is overseen by one big company.
Makes sense. I mean, they're starting to basically corporatize a lot of things. It's okay.
And so you have this, head doctors, head whatevers. You're good.
Anyway. Okay. But by then, our dad worked so much that he'd started to vanish. My brother and I even gave him a nickname.
Vanished. He had already vanished. How did he start to vanish now?
Right?
Like, that was the point of before. She'd rarely seen her father, and he hadn't been here for days, and now he's somehow vanished
again? More commonly?
More distinctively than the other vanishing where he was away for days. What is he away now? Months?
My brother and I even gave him a nickname, which he hated. It's so badly hated that it finally has italics in this freaking thing.
Ooh.
Hated. We called him the Ghost. The less my dad was around, the more we seemed to have. My mom built a studio for herself at the bottom of our yard. My parents put in the swimming pool for me. Wow. We got a new minivan, new furniture, and a high stockade fence around our backyard that cut us off from our neighbors.
Okay, this is very cute. And one of these days when I'm writing a book, I'm going to hate someone reviewing mine like this. But listen up. They didn't fix the leaky roof or the peeling paint or anything like that first before they bought a new minivan and put a pool in.
I was going to say, you guys are ridiculous. Why would you? Well, of course we fix things.
And honestly, why would, if this is a kid telling what they care about, why would they mention the minivan and the fence over, like, my room got painted or I got new carpet?
Or like, stuff stopped leaking on me.
Or I finally had new clothes to wear.
Right?
I didn't have to have a pot on the kitchen
and
counter.
Nobody stared at me, like, or everyone started staring at me because I had new clothes. Like, you could mention that. Like, you had weird interactions with the school kids.
The water stopped dripping on the faucet.
I don't know. These are weird priorities that I don't understand. This character seems a little disjointed. Already, I know they had started to hate us. They? Okay, who's they? They were jealous. They watched us come and go. And the more we got, the less they smiled. It was right about that time when things started to go wrong with Will. Because, as I will point out here, he hit puberty.
Yes.
The summer before my sophomore year of high school feels hotter and muggier than those of any previous years. Lately, I'm always sweaty and dirty. Instead of showering, I swim, which leaves me stinking of chlorine. When my
Okay.
brother is around, he doesn't shower much either. So basically what she likes doing is basically stripping
Ruining
her
the
skin.
pool. Also ruining the pool.
Uh-huh.
Like that actually, the reason they want you to shower before you go into pools is so that you won't get the stuff on your skin into the pool and ruin the chemical balance.
Uh-huh, because also at the same
Like
time,
that's
too...
really a jerk move to go, I am disgusting and I'm going to clean myself in your pool and make it so you have to take better care of your pool and your biobalance is off and you have to change your filters more often and put in more chemicals.
Uh-huh, that actually start... Anyway, that just sounds very silly.
However, this is very common mental illness behavior for her brother, and I think she's contrasting it to that. I think that's what's up.
Going, if this is with him, this is also me. We're
Yeah.
both basically...
I think she's, well, and if he's older, she's probably modeling him, which he did seem older.
Mm-hmm, he does sound like he is older. When my brother is around, he doesn't shower much either. Yeah.
When he's
He
around,
and I
when did
both...
he disappear?
I know! When did that happen? He and I both sleep into the afternoon on most days, and we spend the rest of our time in a haze of swimming and slow conversation on whatever trouble we can think to get into.
So did we not go to school? Okay.
I've always had a swimmer's body. Muscular but slim, and I keep my long blonde hair the same shade as the ghost's used to be before he turned gray, knotted into a messy ponytail when it's not tucked underneath a swimming cap. This summer, I'm usually barefoot. And always wearing the same ratty bikini covered in tiny pink-lipped monkeys. The bathing suit hangs as though distracted from my body. It's a little too big for me. Whoa!
God, if you're wearing a bikini that's too big for you, you honestly are going to have an experience where it is falling off of you.
That's not... Yeah, I'm like, no. Like, especially with your mom, I'm like, the level of this seems really... Again,
Like, you're both sick, aren't you?
everybody's a little bit apparently nuts. Which I hate to... Excuse me, that's casual ableism, but I'm actually really...
Wow.
I know, I'm just... this is... Nuts in the sense of this seems really inane. Like, this is just ridiculous, like...
Also, like, for anyone who's
incongruous behavior.
For anyone who's ever had a swimsuit that doesn't fit, if it doesn't fit when it's dry, it will literally fall off you when
you're
wet.
swimming, yeah.
And so, like, she's exposing herself according to what the author's written. Like, it is hanging off of her hiney and it is sagging away from her chest.
Uh-huh, how cute.
I mean...
And honestly, you would actually start getting basically other adults really going, excuse me.
There would be some level of that, unless, of course, you're ostracized from everyone. But if you're ostracized as the rich family, like... But the thing is you're going to have either predatory adults interested in you because you look so ill cared for and yet available.
Wealthy, yeah.
And yet available. And then you have other adults that are trying to help you because, yeah. Anyway.
Going, well, you're also the representation of our society. So if you usually ever had any money, though, a lot of people actually, shockingly, will expect that you act in a certain way. So they would be extremely pushy and probably be really nasty to your parents.
On the other hand, if
your child is inappropriate, you need to treat them better. But it also says,
it says they're already the outcast, so that could be what's going on, and we're just not getting any picture of this at all.
All I'm saying, this seems really disjointed. I don't understand what's going on. But
what are your priorities?
Uh-huh.
All right, let's go.
La comprende. Okay. It's a little too big for me and threatens to fall away with the pull of a thread. It's that bad. So you're right. The look drives my parents crazy, especially my father, who thinks I should carry myself with more class. I'm 15, I remind him during one of his rare appearances in the afternoon. He's unblinking. You're right. You're 15. Then he likes to play the classic parent card. I thought you were old enough to be treated like a mature and responsible adult. If he were around enough to know better, he would understand I'm already quicker than that. Wow, this is amazing.
Quicker?
Mature and responsible is one thing, but this is Hillsburg, Dad? Look around. Our town's most recent claimed fame occurred when the police busted up a meth lab in the basement of a home daycare service.
Wow.
I'm not sure where you think all this class is supposed to come from.
Mm-hmm.
Before the summer had started, I hadn't seen my brother in 5 months, which is how long it's been since his last stint in a psych unit.
Yep, there it is.
Also, here's my question. Holy shit, where did you guys actually manage to get psych units? Do you know that actually they're incredibly uncommon in the United States and you actually don't have a lot of long-term, even basically short-term care anymore? So a lot of people don't know this, but most basically long-term care facilities are actually out of business. I think there's only 2 left or 1 left in the entirety of the United States, period.
And so they live in a very particular location, or he's being shipped off every time as well.
All right.
And the thing is, yeah, long-term psychiatric care is hard to come by. For the most part, you get a short
Well, because
stint in a
people go, well, they're
hospital.
super inappropriate and you shouldn't have them. And it's like, and yet, because nobody, like,
They're
tries
needed.
to help getting resources for people who go, I don't know how to get help for my child, that I would like to help them function and have as normal of a life as possible. And understand, like, having somebody who's got, minor
They go,
forms of
no,
autism.
you can stick them in a nursing home.
Yeah,
Where they
basically.
won't raise them or support them. They'll just care for their physical needs.
All right, going, well, they're screaming today. Who cares? This is just Bobby. This is what Bobby does. Anyway, I'm
All right.
bothered all
Let's
over the place by this.
assume, benefit of the doubt, that he's in an actual psychiatric care place, and it is a long-term care place, and because they have all that money and her dad has doctor contacts, it is that place. Doctor contacts.
All right, hang on. I'm having to, because I managed to glance at something. All right, so
Don't lose your place.
there have been so many episodes of his absence. 3 weeks here, 6 months there. It doesn't sound like long-term care at all. All my childhood memories since we moved to Hillsburg fit together like a jigsaw puzzle, with pieces missing in the most conspicuous places. My birthday without my brother, age 9. Spring without him, age 11. A whole childhood, not so whole. Because you don't have your brother? Okay, so maybe I'm being cold and cruel here, but my brother was 8 years older than me, and I never really had a good relationship with him anyway. One of the reasons why I specifically personally mentioned that puberty hit, and that's, of course, when it starts showing up for most people, because you have a massive amount of hormones. People talk about if you have dissociative identity disorder. So in my brother's case, he has what is termed as paranoid is a dissociative identity disorder. So he just hears voices. He doesn't see anything. He hears things constantly. It's this low, continual stream of things going on. Brain will not stop talking. And for me,
Well, I mean,
my
for
parents
his-
had a lot more money, it sounds like, than even these people starting out with. So when Mike started, so I'm going to say my name is Mike. When he started showing signs of this, my parents weren't sure what it was because it hit around puberty and were trying for the longest time to figure out what it was. They only really figured it out when he was much older. And this is where I'm going, wow, the fact that you guys at all are going, well, we're going to stick him in long-term care or even short-term care. My brother didn't have that. He was at home and he would be doing drugs and whatever else, either compensating for. I just didn't have a relationship with him. And also my parents had no idea what was going on.
So
even my
times,
dad being a doctor.
I say a lot of times people just don't know what this is, and it doesn't get identified that quickly and that easily at all.
And again, this could be me making an assumption that it sounds like it's been identified. Because also going, you've literally been going to a psych unit? That's like you immediately know there's something wrong with my child psychologically, like mentally. My child has a disorder of some kind.
On the other hand,
Like even going that far.
If your dad's psychiatric practice, then maybe it's an assumption immediately of going, this falls into a realm of something I recognize, so you get way faster attention because it's going, that thing.
But there are also plenty of cases where I remember hearing stories that there were numerous doctors who that was their specialized field and they could not see it in their kid.
Yep.
Or in the rest
in their
of their family.
own kid, yeah, in their family, in something that's
Because-
that close to them.
Because you're usually also taught never to practice on your family.
Well, you know, actually.
I know that happens constantly.
Anyway, let's go on.
Anyway, okay. For the longest time, the gaps in our relationship didn't seem to matter. I missed him so much that it only made me love him more once he came home again. After all, we'd been friends since the day I was born. He
Okay,
taught me
so-
my first swear words.
So this is super cool in that she has a really strong relationship with her brother and is very attached to him, and it adds to her. But I don't relate to this in the
At
way that I
all.
have never been close to my brother ever. We just
You
kind of got along.
you only have yourself and then your brother.
I have my one brother, and he's only 2 years older than me. So
Okay.
we were in that age range where we could have been closer. And we could
where
have
where
gotten
my other
along.
brother likes going, we can't get along because we had a 5-year age difference.
Right. At any rate, it's one of those things where I've never related to people going, I was so close to my sibling I couldn't function without them. And so it's
And
it's
I'm like,
hard for
I
me
don't
to
need
connect
you,
with
I need
this.
my book.
Anyway, go ahead. I shall try to be supportive of her and her relationship. It's changing her life.
All
Empathy.
right.
Empathy, people.
He taught me my first swear words. We still have it on videotape.
Oh, wow.
How do you guys not
Wait,
have any money?
you didn't have a phone and you didn't have a TV, but you had a videotape way back when you were that tiny? Okay, now my suspension of disbelief is gone. You described not having anything at all living in this cottage. How do you have a video camera and no other amenities?
Well, because
at
we
all?
watched it on the tiny little thing. I don't understand either. It's fine. We one time when we still lived in the Barrowlands, my grandpa Effie came to visit and brought his camcorder.
Okay, so
Okay.
maybe that's it. That's it. Okay, thank God,
He
author.
left the tape with us.
We couldn't watch it, but it
And
was there.
yet, I've watched it at least 100 times on our ancient VCR. I'm
Since then.
hobbling across the living room in my diaper, moving toward my young mother's outstretched arms. I can't be more than 2 years old. When I stop and fall suddenly onto my ass and say, "Oh shit!"
Ah.
Oh shit. Back then, my mother still had a sense of humor about some things. She dissolves into giggles, her face so young and pretty and strange, before the tape fades to black. Her eyes are kind and hopeful, excited to see her children growing up.
Oh dear.
Since I was 12 years old and he was 17.
No.
Okay, now.
Well, not
so
now,
now we
but
finally
back then.
have yeah, I'm like, so now we finally have an age range. There is a 5-year difference between these
So
two.
he had the baby in his room with him when he was 5 or 6, depending on the
That
months.
sounds weird,
I mean, that's the only room you have, but why wouldn't you have them in the adults' room? I don't know.
right?
But I grew up very poor, so that's one of those things where it's like usually the baby just stays in the parents' room and the older child gets their own room
Until
there's, I don't know.
an age thing that's you decide at some point. That's the thing is, when I was going to look at you and go, because you have more exposure. So for what I recall growing up, mostly grew up basically in middle class.
And I grew up in lower class.
Yeah, Liz definitely did not.
Much lower class.
I was solidly middle class for what existed at the time, which was much bigger than it is now.
Uh-huh.
Let's put it that way.
All right, go ahead. We're going to lose this whole story if we keep talking.
Anyway, that's because we're bothered.
Uh,
Anyway, anytime the weather is remotely good enough, anytime he's home, Will and I have snuck onto our roof to smoke and talk. Whoa! Wasting our afternoons, taking delight in, as the ghost would say, failing to meet our potential as gifted young people. You sound really disassociated from your own family. We're on the roof this afternoon, staring down. Your tenses are screwing with me. Staring down at the koi man in the yard, at the glare of the sun reflecting off the surface of the pool.
Okay, so a minute ago you were staring out the window, and now you're staring out. Your flashbacks to present is really hard. I don't know where we are.
I don't know where we are. This is what I'm saying. I don't understand this. This is also the tenses are messing me up too.
All right, go ahead. The heat.
The heat on my back gives me goosebumps. There ain't nothing to do in this town but get naked. Well, get baked, excuse me. I liked naked better. But get baked, he says. He is always making wide statements like this, spreading his arms skyward in frustration as though the right plea might split open the town and free him. Because I totally got that from when he says. Anyway, I'm fine.
You're fine.
Yeah, that right, I agree. Will hasn't been to a real school in years, so even though he's actually far more brilliant than me, which, surprisingly, as far as I understand, actually pretends to be a pretty common characteristic, my brother was also noted to be incredibly intelligent on the IQ scale, which is a relative experience, and it alters all the time. But he was actually the most intelligent, apparently, out of all my family, and actually wrote poetry all the time before his illness actually really got to him.
That's unfortunate.
He was very sensitive, as far as my mom explained to me. And the reason, again, why I keep going, I don't really have a connection with him, is he was about 8 years older than me, and at that point, he really wasn't around very much.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't remember much with, in regards to him. So, let's see. So even though he's actually far more brilliant than me, I always try to not sound like I'm being too smart around him. He's sensitive about that kind of thing.
Oh.
All afternoon, we've been smoking this Primo pot he got from someone he met at the hospital. Will tells me, and he should know, that crazy people always get the best drugs. I'm also like, what time period is this? Now you actually get
where are
pot? Holy crap, holy shit, I actually don't understand what time period this is supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm very lost here of going, where is this legal? Is this illegal? Are we in a place where it's, you can do this?
Even medical marijuana was super hard to get a hold of once they basically demonized the crap out of it. It will make you interested in black men.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The thing is it's just an experience of going, okay, what are we driving for here?
This sounds edgy. This just sounds like it's trying to be edgy, and it's kind of bothering me. And again, I get where someone's going, okay, so I'm going to talk about the summary really briefly. It did say it was mildly autobiographical, which I think also makes this more disorienting, because it feels like there are some elements to this which make sense, and there are some elements to this which make no sense at all, like they tried potentially, dramatizing it, or, making it up more. Like, this is getting too personal. I need to shove this off so it's not as obvious.
Or let me play it up a little bit to make it sound interesting, because my life sounds boring to me. And I need to, and it was interesting based on talking to people, but I need to sensationalize it a little bit.
And it's very frustrating. Anyway, among the disgruntled teenage set, there seems to be an endless supply of whatever you want. All of Will's friends are from the other psych hospitals all over the state. Holy!
Really?
Really? Do you know...
What are your parents doing?
What is this? When he's home, he spends most of his time online in his bedroom. Wait, I don't...
Okay, time period.
I'm fine.
I think it's supposed to be completely modern.
I think it is too, and this is very strange. Will asks, can you blame me for wanting to get high all the time? And considering the circumstances that our parents and this town have put him through, I really can't. Will grows serious, sliding his sunglasses down the bridge of his nose, our mother's nose, with his thumb and index finger, squinting against the backyard sunlight, as though he is an anime character. Anyway.
Okay, that one you made up.
I did.
Yes, I found it.
Hey, Katie. What? You see that cat down there? I moved my head next to his. Where? Down there. Don't look. Down there next to the garage. Yeah? So? It knows. My big brother straightens his spine. I put the hand on my shoulder. Stay here. Oh, Will, it doesn't know anything. A hint of a wheeze tickles my lungs. I ignore the feeling. Give me a cigarette. No, dude, pay attention to me. Look at it. It knows we're high. He reaches absently into his shirt pocket and extends a soft pack of Marlboros in my direction.
As if other people don't know you're high when you're smoking it up on the roof in the middle of everything.
Oh, and again, I'm like, this is super illegal. Is this supposed to be Colorado?
I don't
understand this.
And if it is supposed to be illegal, one, because you're underage, well, she is, and two, because...
I'm like, if these people hate you that much, they would be reporting the shit out of it. They would be calling the cops. These kids are on the roof fucking smoking pot. Because you can smell it. I hate to say it. No, you're done. You can smell it.
It's a 9-story house. You can't smell it.
Oh, no. The wind is really strong, except I'm getting baked by the sun.
I don't know.
Whatever. Anyway. He giggles. Right there in his laugh, I can sense his emotional axis shifting a little, off kilter. It's something I've come to call privately the kaleidoscope of crazy. Shimmering and beautiful in certain lights, paisley and horrifying in others. But paisleys are pretty.
Paisleys are very pretty.
You guys just stop being mean
judgy.
to paisleys.
We're being judgy and you're being judgy. Let's move forward.
Will is almost 21, and in certain lights looks more than 12. In others, closer to 30. I know him as well as myself, and not at all. All I can figure to do is to hold on. He is my only brother. Is he serious about the cat? I can't tell. It's going to tell Mom and Dad. He murmurs, gazing at it. Katie, it's going to tell on us. Come on, quit it. I need a lighter, too. Even now, after so many shaky recoveries that we hoped would last, it's important to always have my guard half prepared around Will. He can go like nothing. Out of nowhere. That I get. Says me. That I get. The kaleidoscope twists. The sun makes a slow tumble behind the clouds into the hot shade. This is what always happens. Every time my brother comes home, in the hospital, they get him on a steady dose of the right medications. They get his head straight on again. And once he's doing better, they send him home. Well, because you can't stay. That's one of the things that, unfortunately, due to our situation, for most people, you really are not allowed to stay. That's not how the system works anymore. And I'm not saying they should, but I'm also going, I wish people would give other individuals more resources. I don't really know what the answer is. I had a really hard time with my brother. I get that thing of going where, he can just shift. My brother would go from just talking to himself to suddenly becoming physically violent.
Yeah.
Where my brother would be trying to kid around and lightly punch me on the shoulder, it was a pretty hard punch. So.
All right, here we go. So anyway. He's gone from 0 to 60.
They send him home again. After a while, he feels so good that he decides he can manage life himself.
Without his medication, which is very, very common. Okay, so this is pretty accurate.
Yeah. That he can manage life himself. That he doesn't need to be medicated. My brother has the problem of doesn't understand why he's medicated.
And so it's why do I have to do this chore every day of taking these meds?
I'm fine. So he stops taking his pills and everything starts all over again. The ghost has told me that this is very typical of people like Will, that this very kind of thinking is why it's so hard to help them. I know we shouldn't be getting high, but Will is right. What else is there to do? I don't have any friends in town, and Will doesn't have any. He almost never leaves.
No, he has a lot of friends.
He just doesn't have them in town. 'Cause she just said he spends
In
all
town.
of his friends.
She doesn't have any friends in town. And
And
Will doesn't have any in town, is what that's supposed to mean.
Except for she doesn't have any friends in town and Will doesn't have any.
Yeah, in town.
Then wouldn't it be any either?
I would imagine.
Because it sounds like she's saying that he doesn't have any friends.
And also the fact that it doesn't help. So there's something in here. There's a comma before the and. So it's like two separate ideas. And Will doesn't have any, like total at all.
That's
agree
what I
with
say.
you.
It sounds like he doesn't have any at all, but she's just described that
That
he
he
has
does.
plenty on the internet and they're all like him.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I get it. Well, and also said in the psych wards as well. In the
Well,
psych
meaning
hospitals.
they're all psychiatric patients.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not necessarily like him. Forgive that.
No, that's fine. He almost never leaves our property when he's home. When I do spend time with my friends, leaving him alone out here, especially to hang out with Hillsburg people, it always feels like I'm turning my back on him. Will's face is badly sunburned, peeling by now from too many afternoons passed up here this season, gazing contemptuously at the town. Little Hillsburg. We call it Hellsburg. But on the roof of the biggest house in town, we are bigger than the whole place. I sometimes feel like with only the flick of a finger, we could make the town disappear, and we could stay here forever, undisturbed by the trash surrounding us. We are alone up here, masters of the afternoon, at least until our father gets home. I thought he was at home all that often. Anyway.
So for months until he gets home?
Right, we're gonna stay up here for decades, and then my dad shows up.
For weeks.
If it weren't for this town and everything the people did to him, Will might not even be sick. What? It sounds like you guys haven't had any conversations with your children at all as to what's going on.
Additionally, if they think the only thing there is to do in the entire world is get high, what happened to swimming?
I know, I'm a great swimmer.
I love swimming. I'm like a sail in water. Okay, you don't like swimming, you're just super skilled at it because the only thing to do is smoke?
Right?
I don't know.
I don't understand. This is really all over the place. He was smart as a kid. He still is, and it was too much for people here to handle. What? I think that seeing how smart he was, how successful our parents were becoming, made them realize how tiny and sad their own lives were.
This sounds super discriminatory, like poor people are stupid and envious. And poorly cultured, and they hate those who are better than them. I'm sorry, I'm getting, like, this sounds very
Well, I mean, this
uncomfortable.
is probably offensive to you, because again, you're like, I grew up poor, screw you.
Yeah, and the thing is we're not super judgy. And I can't generalize all poor people, but in the populace that I was in, most times if you're really underprivileged and you're really poor, you're more likely to share what you have than people
Because everybody
who
else
have
is struggling
more.
too, yeah.
Like, every poor person that I've known is more likely to take someone into their house and help them than the people who I know who have extra rooms and money.
So let's talk about this. There's actually a literal psychological thing that they did in regards to testing the empathy of rich people versus poor people, just here in the United States. They discovered, of course, that rich people tend to be way less empathetic and sympathetic to the people around them, while poor people are way more empathetic and sympathetic.
And a lot of that is context. So I actually compared it to work recently. And I work in a manufacturing job. And there's this experience where, and this happens actually in a lot of jobs, but it's very clear in manufacturing, where people go, this other person doesn't do anything. They don't work. I'm the only one who works around here. We are the only ones that work hard at this specific job right here. Every other area, every other shift doesn't really work. And then the person gets moved, or they get promoted, or they have to cover somebody else's shift. And they go, oh my God, this other job is really hard. They work really hard over here. And it's a little like that with people who are in different socioeconomic classes or in different cultures, going, well, they don't have all, they just don't understand that they have all these more resources and all these more ideas. They just don't work like I work. They just don't have value like I have value. And then you go and do their experience and you go, okay, I wasn't being sympathetic or empathetic. I didn't actually know what I was talking about. I didn't have a real picture of what's going on. And you know what? Now I care. Anyway. Go forth.
I'm just being exasperated.
This book is way more challenging than the other one. Like, holy cow.
Oh, wow. This is also not nearly the level of, I'm an edgelord, fluty, special teen. Anyway, but you are also an edgelord. This is
I am
frustrating.
beautiful and rich and privileged. I've always had a natural swimmer's body by doing nothing but laying on the roof and smoking pot with my disabled brother. Go ahead.
Yeah. Here, let's be.
Meet your protagonist. Ha!
And you like them, right? I actually don't like this character at all.
I'm having a hard time connecting to this character.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't like this character. There's not really.
But also, all of his friends are this way. He doesn't have any friends.
Right?
We gotta keep the
Hillsburg
old
is a
tape.
network of cousins. Ooh, we're gonna pull this one now. Everyone in the whole town seems to be related to each other.
Oh my God.
Oh, fuck you.
Keep
author.
going.
Anyway,
Keep going.
they are poor. They go through people's garbage. They don't do things like go to college or look at art or read books or understand that not everyone is like them.
Everyone in this entire town.
You are completely
This sounds deeply inappropriate.
You're completely unempathetic. Like, wow.
That yeah,
Instead,
maybe everyone doesn't like you because you're actually super self-absorbed and very unaware. Anyway, let's go.
Anyway, instead they go to field parties and rebuild cars in their front yards and have their babies young and stay in Hillsburg for their whole lives. They hate us for being so different, for having so much more. I'll never understand why my parents stay here, especially after all that's happened to my brother. Right
You know
now,
what? Some people are not ashamed of any of those things at all, and her interpretation irritates me. Go ahead, right now.
it's fine. I'm super mad too. I'm also super entertained that we have been angry at this thing long enough for you to start from beginning to end with
a whole
single
entire fish.
Good
to
job.
dragon. Fish to dragon in 40 minutes because my friend is so angry.
I mean, so are you. Well, I
am
think you've
grumpy.
gotten more grumpy as we've been going on. Sorry, guys, this is really frustrating.
All right, let's wrap this up. Let's get through. Let's plow
We can do
through
this.
it.
All right. Right now, we both watch in silence as the man who feeds the fish strolls away from the house. On his way out, he bends over to pet the cat we were talking about. How long has he been coming? Will asks. I shrug. Maybe a year? Why? Will doesn't say anything. Why does it matter? He's hardly ever here. My brother looks at me. His expression is so deadly serious that when he speaks, I feel a tingle of electricity move through my spine. Have you ever thought that maybe he's a spy for Mom and Dad? Things started to go really wrong for Will around junior high. God, we're jumping in time again! He was on the basketball team. He loved basketball, and he was good at it. One night after practice, he didn't come home. I was only in the 3rd grade, but I remember how frantic my parents were, how once it got dark out, the local police went up to the school to look for him. They found him in the locker room, alone, naked. For a few days, he wouldn't tell us what had happened. He just refused to go to school. Finally, maybe a week later, our housekeeper showed up at the front door unannounced. Her son, Craig, who was on the basketball team too, was with her. The two of them sat down with my parents in our living room. Will stayed upstairs in his bedroom. I listened from the hallway as Craig explained how his teammates had locked Will in a bathroom stall after practice the night he'd disappeared. They'd stolen his clothes, done their best to make sure there was nothing else for him to wear, not even a towel, and had gone home. They thought it was hilarious. My mother cried without making a sound, her shoulders trembling, the whole time Craig talked. Will didn't play basketball anymore after that. He didn't go back to school for the rest of that year. He stayed home, and my parents hired a private tutor. When he did go back, he started using whatever he could get his hands on, anything he could smoke or put up his nose, or whatever pills people would sell him. Okay, that reminds me also more of my brother.
Okay,
and that's when he started to fall apart.
They're saying that this is basically a mental illness is sparked by one basically mistreatment. That bothers me.
I mean, the thing is that is the level of her understanding. That's the thing that's pissing me off, is that I'm like, the parents did not sit down and try to have a discussion with their 2 children, or at least one of them, who is going, hey, this is the process of what's going on with your brother. We could use your help. Let's all be involved in this. This daughter sounds completely disassociated from her parents, her brother's story, anything. Now, for me, I didn't have as much connection, so it makes more sense as to where I wasn't involved. But my brothers, both my older brothers, actually were more involved as far as I understand, simply because they were closer. And my other brother was way more connected to Mike than I was. Mm-hmm. I tended to hide from my brother a lot more. He made me uncomfortable. That was fine. That was how I dealt with it when I was younger, because I didn't know what was going on. But also my parents didn't really talk to me about it.
But yeah, the thing is she never talks about her mom being distant or not there, but it sounds like she's as distant from her mom as she ever was from her dad. And there's actually more talk about her dad, who's not there, than her mom, who ever is there. Which is weird. Going, was your mom a complete non-entity in your life, and so was your dad, and both of them never showed up for anything other than to harass you?
Well, and again, I'm going, if she was that close with her brother, why didn't the parents talk to her and go, hey, this is what's going on. Here's the process.
Because it sounds like neither of her parents ever talked to her
at all. I'm like, this is just stupid to me. I'm like, this
It's fine. Go. Let's finish this thing off. Let's finish this disaster.
All right.
You can do it.
Then that's when he started to fall apart. I know there's a chance. He would have gotten sick anyway. But of course, we'll never know for sure. Oh.
A chance?
My God. Anyway, I
said, they did. The author is saying this was sparked by this mistreatment event.
And also
as far as I understand, that is not how this disease works.
No, as far as I understand, that is...
Anyway.
I'm blaming everyone else except for the fact that, you know what? Sometimes this is really genetic.
In fact, frequently, it's genetic.
In fact, I think pretty much in all cases, it's pretty much genetic as far as I understand.
This isn't something that is usually, caused by trauma. It is more like
it can be exacerbated by trauma. Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Anyway, because the thing is, she mentions going, it happened when I was like
We're gonna
9.
have to tag this for 900, like mental illness discussion.
Wow, this is awful. Anyway, okay, what's wrong with Will, according to every doctor who's ever seen him, is drug-induced schizophrenia.
Oh.
Without
Huh.
all the bullying, he might have never gotten into all the drugs. What?
All the
So
bullying.
how old were you? I don't understand your age range then. Like, I understand, so there is a thing of where it is exacerbated by it, but it is not explicitly going, this is correlation, not causation.
Well, also all the bullying. Again, they don't like us, but there wasn't ever like, I don't know.
I'm not connecting to this. Anyway,
I
let's
can't
just keep
tell
going.
her jumping around point of view. I don't know what the ages are. I don't know what's going on.
This is not clear at all.
It's so much summary.
This is so much dissociative identity disorder, the book, because we're going this place and that place and over here and that thing. But again, dissociative identity disorder also isn't just, we're jumping in time zones. It's also quite literally just going, there's lots of stuff going on around me that's not there.
And I'm overloaded.
Constantly. Okay. It took him a few years before what was happening to him to become clear. Typically, schizophrenia doesn't begin to show itself until later in a person's adolescence or early 20s, but Will has never been typical, and people in this town were unusually cruel. Because that's why your parents...
Because your parents wanted to move you somewhere safe and then let you be abused the entire time you were there. Okay,
Right.
help me out here. We moved away from the country where it was dangerous because there were intruders one time, and then we proceeded to let our kids be aggressively and blatantly abused by the entire community, which also aggressively and blatantly
Do
abuses
you
and
know that
ostracizes
my
us.
parents moved me,
And
like,
we're incredibly rich and really well off now, but we're not going to leave this very judgy, aggressive, dismissive community that ostracizes you as adults and children?
or change schools?
Why are you in that house? Well, I mean, they went homeschooled. But, like, why are you staying in that place? What is important about that place? He also has practices in other locations.
He could move.
Why wouldn't you move?
This is
This, again,
silly.
sounds like the parents are incredibly negligent, both of them.
And it's like, I'm not saying that this is necessarily
But they're not even
unrealistic, but
caring
it's like,
about their own experience of, again, being ostracized. She hasn't even talked about the fact that clearly her parents have no friends or community at all.
They also seem just as radically... I'm like, why would you... I don't understand. I'm fine. Anyway, I puff on my cigarette now while he watches. How am I doing? He takes a long contemplative drag of his own smoke, shaking his head. You're inhaling okay, but you have to get used to keeping it in your mouth. Like this. He demonstrates, keeping a loose hold on the cigarette between his dry lips. So you look tough, and nobody messes with you. I don't want to look tough. I want to look sexy. Will rolls his eyes, annoyed. Why? His gaze turns to the cat again. So all the Hellsberg losers will want to take you out on the town? No. He nods to himself, disgusted by the idea, determined to believe it. Yeah, that's why. I'm a girl, Will. I want boys to like me. Like, you could be a lesbian.
But not these boys.
Not these boys. So what other boys? You know, boys. You mean, like, your brother? Sorry, I'm annoyed.
Your dad. The
Your dad.
doctors your dad fraternizes with.
Right? Alright. Well, you've got to quit calling them cigarettes, for one thing. Why? Because they ain't. Oh boy, we're gonna go here, aren't we?
Yep.
He removes the cigarette from his lips, hold it between his stained fingers, stares at it. They're fags.
Yep.
I've never heard anybody call them fags. Alright, so I apologize greatly because this term is honestly super inflammatory
So,
for a lot of people.
In the
and-
last book, I said that there was a racial slur
So-
and that I was just going to read it as it was written. So in this case, we're just going to read it as it was written. We do not, Lies and Scandal do not subscribe to or endorse the views of the author.
Pretty much. I've never heard anybody call them fags. That's what they call them in the city. I snort. Right. Shut up, Katie. Is that what they called them in the hospital? Right away, I know I shouldn't have said it. He bares his teeth at me, and even in the shade I can see the heat rising from the tarred roof, willowing around his slight figure. Behind his braces, his teeth are yellow and mossy, stubbornly crooked.
Ugh.
Our orthodontist says Will is the worst patient he's had in 30 years of practice. Anytime his braces start bothering him,
He cracks them off.
Will pries them from his teeth with a pair of pliers he keeps stashed in his room somewhere. My parents try to do sweeps of his bedroom every couple of weeks, looking for things that could get him into trouble, but somehow he manages to keep a lot of things hidden. Random prescription pills, cigarettes by the carton. How does he get money? Short stories that he writes about all kinds of awful, crazy things, scribbled on yellow legal paper, and his pliers. As a result of his stealth, he's had braces on and off for something like 10 years. Which is funny when you think about it, because what's the point anymore? it isn't like they'll ever get him to wear his retainers.
Right.
He flicks his cigarette onto the gutter, and we both watch while its cherry eats at a dead leaf.
That's the weird thing again of going, the parents seem to care about appearances, but at the same time, why aren't they moving to a nicer place with better appearances?
Right?
Going, your parents don't make sense. But again, I am coming to the conclusion that this book is doing fine and that what we have is an unreliable narrator who is describing her experience, which is meant to be disjointed. And so this isn't supposed to be a super connective book where you know what's going on and what time it is and things like that. What you're supposed to be doing is having an emotional experience with your protagonist who is somehow supposed to be either relatable or at least draw you in until later when she becomes relatable. This is the theory I am developing about this book and going, no, these timeline experiences don't all make sense. No, the focus of her mind doesn't all make sense. No, the description of her environment and activities don't all make sense. The description of her peers and the people around her and how her parents interact with her don't all make sense, but that's her experience. Which
Anyway.
doesn't make the book accessible to me, but I think that's what the author was going for at this
But
point.
I'm also, again, going, you're just dramatizing mental illness. I don't care how much this is autobiographical. There's also a lot of this that you sensationalized and dramatized and also basically edited very strongly, so it wouldn't either be more like you or whatever else. Going, well, this is relative to my experience or whatever. It's like,
Also, it sounds like someone learning how to write a book.
uh-huh.
I don't know how many books this author has written, but for me, it also feels like someone learning how to write a book, learning how to structure your timelines, learning what to focus on. Some of these things of like, I'm describing my environment and I'm describing the cottage and the cabbages, not cabbages, lettuces and things and zucchinis, feels very like an experience of an author going, this is what you do at this stage in the story. And this is how you set the stage. And there's a point where she's like, I've always had the swimmer's body, this and that. There's a point where you have to
That's super
describe
weird.
your character.
Yeah.
Where the people need to know what your character looks like a little bit, but we've never heard what anyone else looks like at all, except for Mom used to look young and pretty, and the doctor the ghost used to have blonde hair like she does, and her brother is disgusting due to hygiene, and also his teeth are crooked. That's all we've got.
Yeah, and he's long and willowy. He's like tiny.
He's skinny.
He's a skinny boy.
Uh-huh.
I'm irritated. I'm also like, one thing that's bothering me personally is going, all right, do you know that actually a lot of the drugs for individuals who tend to be trying to deal with various forms of dissociative identity disorder, particularly like, for example, my brother, tend to gain an enormous amount of weight?
Yeah, a lot of them actually destroy your metabolism. They don't make you skinny and edgy and cute like the movies. Yes, you're this dramatic, skinny, waifish boy who's also sexy, and a disaster, so people can sympathize with you.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that
And/or-
everybody reacts to various things differently because guess what? Everybody is honestly that unique.
But it's much more common to tear your body down and have you gain weight with drugs for this kind of illness. You know what? It's getting really long. Are you at the page break yet?
No.
Let's just stop at the page break and
All
wrap
right.
this up.
Okay, because I think we're done with this. I've been so irritated.
Yeah, we're slogging through this so slow that I doubt anyone's getting much from it.
Then Will leans forward on his knees and hawks a wad of spit onto the burning edge, turning the leaves over with his hand to hide our evidence. We've learned that we have to be careful. Sorry.
Because
that
we're up
in
on the-
many ways our parents are better sneaks than we are. They pretend to be clueless to what's going on for a while, and then they seize on you. Anyway, there's still more to this. There's
So
several...
that is the basics of the
I'm
preview,
angry
and it just
about
keeps
this.
going. All right, read the summary for this book. The
All
thing
right.
that made you go, oh my god, this is what I'm going to read.
All right, so here we go. Here's Breathless's summary that got us to read this, and I regret everything.
In case you don't remember, this book was actually called Breathless, and they suggested it'd be a lot about swimming.
Yeah, they did. When Katie Kittrell is shipped off to a boarding school by her distant father and overbearing mother, it doesn't take her long, except the fact is her mother can't even be overbearing because she's not even around!
Yeah, the fact is, like, her overbearing mother is not bearing at all based on that preview and the description of many years of her life. So her newly overbearing mother? Who knows?
Right?
All right, let's
It
go.
doesn't take her long to become part of the IT crowd. She's smart, she's cute, and does a ton of drugs, which is me inserting that in. And she's an Olympic-bound swimmer who has a first-class ticket to any Ivy League school of her choice. When? She hasn't done any studying, she spends all... But what her new friends, roommate, and boyfriend don't know is that Katie is swimming away from her past and from the schizophrenic older brother, Will, who won't let her go. As Katie's star rises, her brother descends deeper into insanity, and when he does the unthinkable, it's all Katie can do to keep her head above water. So I'm guessing he probably, as we guessed earlier, is that he probably tries to kill himself.
Or
A
does actually succeed.
autobiographical novel of love, lies, and the ties that bind. So this is Breathless by Jessica Warman, and I am super freaking irritated about this book. I'm sorry, Anyway,
All right, so welcome to Scandal is Irritated,
I-
and Lies tries to be an optimist.
Lies tries to be I'm like, the thing is that I've read stuff like this, and past the point I'm going, I wonder how horrible basically they make this super off from the beginning and then end on this very mild positive note of going, well, it could get better. I'm like, the thing that makes some of this stuff so difficult to deal with is you're going, I don't know how to help them. I would like to help them. The reason I'm so insulted about this is over the years is I have become vaguely more connected to my brother's stuff. Honestly, he's super isolated. My brother spends the most time with him, with his family that he has. And my mom basically is depressed about it all the time. Is going, no one, like, we don't know how to help him.
So Scandal's family is a bit of a mess.
Pretty much. And it's like, my family also had a ton of money. But, my family probably had more money than these guys
But also,
do. But
Scandal's
they were
family moved
super...
all the time.
Yeah.
And most people that I knew that had money moved
All the
time.
time.
Like buying the new cars. You buy a new house. You buy a new society. You buy new, a new venue. You buy new weather.
But also that tends to be fairly characteristic of individuals who never necessarily had a lot of money. So my mother grew up fairly poor. She was the oldest of a ton of kids.
This is more new money. I was going to say old money, you tend to have the house already. But your house doesn't live in an aggressively abusive community.
Yeah, pretty much.
Where you all are ostracized completely.
And
the overbearing mother thing, I'm going, this
ostracized.
is super weird.
My mother ran away. My mother wasn't overbearing.
The thing is her mom sounds like she's not there. Like, we've heard nothing about the mom.
At all.
Except that she painted their room, and that she's
apparently
stuck
an
it
artist.
out. She stuck it out while Dad was, working through school. She went to school for something. I'll just assume it's the art.
Right.
And that's it. We have not seen her at all. Back then, when my mom looked pretty, so is she exhausted now? And you say she's overbearing, even though you never see her, but she's never gone. What does she do? Sit quietly in the corner of the house and drink gin?
Right? I'm the sad, angsty artist type. I'm like, I don't even know what this book is trying to do.
All right, so this is round 2 of let's read previews of books and see what the heck they are. And we're
So thanks for joining us.
Put them over a lovely backdrop of
Zen Koi. It's supposed to be calming, but instead I'm just angry.
So thank you so much for joining us. We do a lot of Let's Plays on our channel as well. So if you're interested in those or other grinding casts where we just simply discuss topics and go off, if you will, it would be lovely to have you. And thank you for being here this time. If you have comments, we'd love to hear them. If you want to like or subscribe or recommend us to other people who would be equally infuriated or who had great opinions of this book and really want to defend it, go off, my friend. We'd love to interact. All right, so I'm Liz.
And I am Scandal.
And take care of yourself out there. Remember to drink some water.
Take care.
Bye.